Okay, I think you can share now.
Okay. Please, you can see my screen, right?
Yes, we can. If you can just set it to slideshow.
Okay.
Great, we can see it
It's
now.
okay like
So you
this?
can go ahead.
Okay. Please, I'm sorry for joining late. It's because of the network. I've been trying to use both of my devices, handset and computer. I'm sorry for that. So, good evening all. My name is Dr. Abdulkadir Usman Sambo. I'm a senior registrar in psychiatry. Today, I'm going to take us through this article named randomized control trial of cannabis-based medicine in central pain and multiple sclerosis. This article was authored by David Monico, Tim Caroline, and it was published in 2005 in the Journal of Neurology. The research was conducted between March and July of 2002 at the Walton Center Clinical Trials Unit, Liverpool, United Kingdom. So by way of introduction, central pain in multiple sclerosis is common and is often refractory to treatment. Central pain, that is pain initiated or caused by primary lesions or dysfunction of the central nervous system, is estimated to occur in about 17 to 52% of people with multiple sclerosis. As many as 32% of patients with multiple sclerosis regard pain among their most severe symptoms, confirming it as a frequent, disabling, and inadequately managed symptoms. The most common form of central pain in multiple sclerosis is non-paroxysmal extremity pain, which shows large inter-individual variation. And this may manifest with several typical dysstatic qualities, such as burning, aching, pricking, stabbing, or squeezing. Painful extremity spasms have also been classified as central pain. So this study was designed to evaluate the effect of oromucosal cannabis-based medicine in central pain associated with multiple sclerosis. And the study participants are adult patients with central neuropathic pain syndrome due to multiple sclerosis. They were invited to participate in the study, which is a 5-week, 4-visit randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled oral group study. Patients were identified predominantly from previous study that validated the neuropathic pain scale 12, the multiple sclerosis central pain, and also from the regional multiple sclerosis clinic and also by specialist referral. So before the study was conducted, a written informed consent from the participant was collected, which the participants that are eligible to participate in the study are those with multiple sclerosis with a diagnosis at least 6 months using the FOSA criteria. They are included. However, the inclusion criteria are as follows. Those patients with chronic visceral pain, headache, spasticity, associated itching pain, secondary entrapment syndrome, or acute multiple sclerosis related pain. Example, optic neuritis or positive Lamite sign. These people were excluded from the study. And also a patient with dysstatic pain, which they describe it predominantly in their legs and feet. And also a patient were also excluded if their sensation were not subjectively deemed painful, or if they had spasticity or painless spasm alone, or another non-central pain mechanism was considered more likely. Example, in those with musculoskeletal pain from postural changes or peripheral neuropathic pain from nerve entrapment. And also, individuals are also ineligible to participate in the study if they have a history of major psychiatric disorder other than depression that may associated with the underlying condition. And also presence of severe concomitant illness like seizures, history or suspicion of substance abuse, those people will be excluded from the study. So also presence of concomitant severe non-neuropathic pain or the presence of illness like diabetes, mellitus, which may cause peripheral neuropathy also, will be excluded from the study. And also those that were scheduled to undergo general surgery during the study were also excluded from the study. Patients were also excluded if they were pregnant, lactating, taking levodopa therapy within 7 days of study entry, or had known history of hypersensitivity to cannabinoids. So before the study, local site ethics committee were consulted for approval of the study, and it was stipulated that patients should not drive within the period of the study. So the precautions that were taken before the study are as follows. Those patients that are taking amitriptyline or any other tricyclic antidepressant, they are required to reduce or to maintain the maximum dose of 75 milligrams per day. And also a stable neuropathic pain medication regimen was maintained during the 2 weeks immediately before screening and throughout the study. Changes in medication or procedures expected to affect central nervous system, MS pain were prohibited. So no cannabinoid use during the study, and at least 7 days before the screening or during the study was permitted. And also a patient consented to their details being notified to the British Home Office and agreed not to travel outside the United Kingdom or donate blood during the study. Participants, before the study, participants underwent assessment, including calculations of the expanded disability status scale 15. Patients or the participants, they localized their pains within a body map. And also a pain history and bedside examination was undertaken by the physician within the physician, physician personnel in the study to establish whether the pain or the pains were likely to be of central origin based on their location, the quality or qualities of the pain, and also associated sensory abnormalities like hypothesia, allodynia, and hyperpathia. And also patient most troubled central neuropathic pain was identified based on the interactions. And then they estimated at what time of the day this pain is at its most severity. And also using a numerical rating scale 11, in which 0 means no pain, while 10 means worst possible pain. It was completed daily for the identified pain, at least within the 7th day. Before the onset of the study, a period of 7 to 10 days was used to establish the baseline parameters of the pain using this numerical rating scale. And also throughout the study period, that is the 4-week study period. And then a daily numerical rating scale recording of the sleep disturbances due to the pain was also noted, with 0 meaning that the pain did not disrupt the sleep, and also 10 meaning that the pain completely disrupted the sleep and they were unable to sleep. And also neuropathic pain scale was also used together with the numeric rating scale for 3 consecutive days before the onset of the study, and also before 3 days before the final assessment of the study. So the following items were examined first before the first dosing and also at the study completion. So using the following instrument: brief repeatable battery of neuropsychological test 16 to measure the cognitive function, and also hospital anxiety and depression scale 17 was used to measure the mood state of the patient of the participant, and also Guy's neurological disability scale 18 was used to measure the multiple sclerosis related disability. So at the end of the study, patient global impression of change 19, which is a 7-point rating scale, was used to assess the patient overall change status since commencement of the study medication. So 64 patients were recruited for the study and were randomized, 32 patients in each treatment group. Patients were randomized within a predetermined randomization code drawn up by a statistician who remain unknown to the study personnel throughout the duration of the trial. And then the treatment allocation was made using randomized permuted blocks of 4, meaning 2 active drugs and 2 placebo. with treatments initially assigned to either a whole plant cannabis-based medicine containing tetrahydrocannabinol and cannabidiol delivered by mucosal spray or placebo. So each spray of this agent contains 2.7 milligram of THC and 2.5 milligram of CBD or placebo. The placebo was designed in such a way to match the appearance, smell, and taste of the active formulation, so as to keep the blinding, so as for the blinding to be effective. But it contains no active component, and excipient used is ethanol and polypropylene glycol in 50-50 combination. So to facilitate blinding also, patient completed pain and sleep assessment at home, and the physician examined patient, gave dosing advice, and assessed them for adverse event. Trial nurses completed all other secondary at-home assessment, and a trial pharmacist dispensed the study medications. All the personnel are not aware of the two groups, whether the control or the subject. The identity of study medication assigned to patient, to which all study personnel remain blinded, was also contained in individually sealed envelope, which is retained in hospital 24-hour pharmacy and also in the sponsors pharmacovigilance department. So on the first day of treatment, up to 4 sprays were delivered in 2 hours, and any signs of intoxication observed over 4 hours by the investigator and recorded by the patient on a 100 millimeter visual analog scale. This scale, 0 of this scale means there is no intoxication, while 100 means there is an extreme intoxication. So if the patient scored 25 millimeters on the pre-dose visual analog scale, or the investigator had concerns that the patient or participant may have intoxication, a dose could be omitted. A patient who satisfactorily completed initial dosing were given written instructions to begin home dose titration the following day. So there is no specific target dose for either the placebo or the active cannabis-based medicine. And the patient were advised to increase the number of sprays stepwise on consecutive days up to 48 sprays. 48 sprays will deliver at least 129.6 milligram of THC and 120 milligram of CBD in 24 hours. So for safety reasons, the patient were advised to take not more than 8 sprays within any 3-hour interval and refrain from titrating the daily dose by more than 50% from the previous day. So if intoxication was experienced, patients were advised to reduce or omit a dose. If a maximum tolerated dose is established, it was exceeded with caution. Analysis of covariance was used to compare the change in scores from baseline to end of treatment. That is either completion or withdrawal by the participant between the treatment groups for all efficacy scores, including the numerical rating scale 11 and the NPS. The patient global impression score was analyzed by comparing the proportion of patients rating themselves as much or very much improved using Fisher's exact test. Chi-square test was used for all binary. Chi-square test was used for all binary variables apart from the dichotomized patient global impression score. Patient global impression of change. My battery is running down. Sorry. So hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I'm having a problem with my battery. It's still.
Yes, Dr. Sambo, hello, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Yes, I'm sorry. Let me.
Sorry about that. Please, maybe we'll give him a minute to
Okay.
sort out his power problem. It looks as if he has dropped out. I think he was having some challenges with his power. Maybe we'll just give him a minute. Sorry for all the inconveniences, please. Okay, while we're still waiting for him to log back in, I don't know if our in-house statistician, Mr. Anyem, has any comments to make while we await his coming back. Mr. Felix.
Okay. Hi, everyone. No comment with regards to what he had presented, unless you mean the statistical aspect of the paper.
Yes, but the only challenge maybe is because he hasn't yet completed the presentation. But if you have any comments, even if
Yeah,
it is on the statistical.
Okay, okay, maybe we can hold on to that. But what I would like to add before he comes back is we are all very much aware that randomized control trial studies are at a very high level in terms of scientific knowledge and scientific experience, including evidence-based utilization of this information. Although there are two higher levels now that is above this. One is the systematic review and meta-analysis that is gaining a lot of traffic now. Then the other one is the umbrella review, which is the mother of them all, although not very popular at the moment in Nigeria as a context. The umbrella review is where you put together systematic review to get a summary evidence. So that's the top. However, randomized control trial in terms of the clinical relevance of a study design is still top-notch and still accepted all over the world. So which is why anytime I see a paper that is a randomized control trial, I pay a lot of attention, because it's whatever information that is generated from this study would be very beneficial in the scientific community and would not just be taken for granted. And it's actually interesting to know that we can research information on cannabis. And I know you would appreciate the fact that cannabis in itself may not be universally acceptable, for some regions as a therapeutic agent for whatever ailment it is meant to be used for. But it is quite interesting, to see the boldness that these researchers have taken to actually take a look at this and see what relevance and what efficacy it can bring, into the scientific community, and to know by reviewing this paper, that it can actually play a very good role in reducing pain in multiple sclerosis was really, really amazing. And some persons may ask, why randomized control trial? Because a lot of times we feel that the study design is just maybe something you do tumbo best calabat. Okay, now I feel like doing randomized control trial, or the other time I feel like doing cross-sectional. No, it's not really like that. Before the study design is even chosen, you probably, as the researcher, have an idea in your head what you want to achieve. As long as you're carrying out a research where you want to test the efficacy, especially the benefits. I know why I'm using that word, the benefits, especially the benefits of a drug or a treatment reagent in an ailing patient, then randomized control trial would be most effectual, because here you're actually looking at the benefit that that drug will bring. Okay, Sambo is here. You can take over. Thank you.
Good evening.
Yes, evening.
Please, I'm very
Yes,
sorry.
good evening. Yes, welcome back.
Thank you. I had to join with my mobile phone.
Okay, are you able to continue the presentation?
Yes, let me copy the slide to my phone so that I can continue.
Okay.
Just
All
1
right.
minute.
Okay. So thank you very much, Mr. Anyim, for that insight on the new aspects to research and also the benefit of this study as relates to the use of cannabis in pain management. I think it's a very interesting paper too. And I'm sure every other person will be waiting to hear the outcome from the conclusion of what Dr. Sambo is about to give us. All right. So while we wait for Dr. Sambo to come on with his slides, is there any comment or contribution? Maybe just half a minute, 1 minute. Anybody with a contribution, comment? You can just raise your hand. Okay. Looks as if there's no comment or contribution yet. So we'll allow Dr. Sambo to share his slides, then we can get on with the presentation. Thank you once again.
Okay.
Yes, Dr. Shoinka, let me unmute you. Yes, you can go ahead, please.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. It's good to be here with you again. And I see my old classmate, Dr. Akintayo, on the call as well. It's good to see you. It's been many, many years. I think my question is really one intended to more for the audience, and it's to gauge what is the current prevalence of cannabis use now in our part in Nigeria, in the different parts of Nigeria. Can you share any information on that? That's not for you, Dr. Mina. That's for the audience.
Yes, thank you. Please, anybody? Okay.
Can I share?
Sure. Dr. Sambo, go ahead.
Okay.
Please, we can type in our response in the chat box to the question that was asked.
A co-host.
You will not be able to share if he's not the host. So.
Yes, I've made him host.
Okay, sir.
So up till now, I cannot share. Okay.
No, go ahead now, please. Please, you can type into the chat box if we have any answers to the beautiful contribution and question that Dr. Schwenker asked about the incidence of cannabis use in our sub-region. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anyam. I saw your post. Let me just share the context for my question. I'm sure you're all aware, I live and practice in the US, and I'm sure you've all been following the trends. It's not just in the US, but I think across many parts of the world now, there's a trend towards legalizing cannabis, wholesale legalization for use recreationally. This is a pretty significant shift from the historical stance, certainly here in the US, where cannabis was considered illegal. And there were many downstream social impacts of that policy. What is missing from the current conversation very often? So this is the wave of legalization now, and it's state by state. It's still federal. It's still restricted, but the state by state legalization is largely driven, it seems like, from the opportunity to create a new industry where it can be monetized basically the same way alcohol is monetized, and other forms of entertainment. What is often missing from the conversation, largely missing from the conversation, is the opinion of medical experts. In general, when I've done a search of the stance or the position of medical organizations, they generally caution against this wholesale legalization, mostly based on the we don't know, from studies what the impact of such legislation will be. We do know that 10 to 11% of users of marijuana will become addicted to it, meeting all the criteria for addiction. And we also know that for certain populations, there's a tremendous amount of vulnerability. Young people, for example, whose brains are still developing up till about their mid-20s are especially vulnerable. So there's a link to psychosis, there's a link to reduced achievements, so-called pothead, as it's called colloquially here. And there's some studies that show an impact on the IQ and so on. Lots of potential consequences, and that's leaving out the medical issues. So there's some question about what the impact of these policies will be, but what it seems to be happening is you're seeing this, or I'm seeing some trends that this wave of wholesale legalization is happening in other parts, or at least a shift in the attitudes of young people in particular is happening around the world. So it's no longer considered risky. In fact, it's been marketed pretty heavily to young people, certainly here in the US. So that's the context of my question. I'm curious to see have there been any shifts in attitudes in Nigeria? What's the prevailing trend? Are we seeing more young people using marijuana? And if so, what sorts of impacts are you seeing? Now, if Dr. Sambo, if you're ready to continue your talk, then by all means, please go ahead. But if you're still working through the logistics, then that's something that I think we can discuss in the meantime.
Okay, please give me 2 minutes.
I think my response to your question will be, one of the presidential candidates in the last election, sure, one of the things he was, one of his campaign points was that he was going to legalize marijuana. And that was used to decampaign him a lot. So I think that just summarizes how cannabis is still viewed in Nigeria. And I know that today, if a cop was to walk into any part of anywhere, even if it's a hospital and they find marijuana, somebody will get arrested. So the long and short of it is, I think we're still very far from accepting it for medical reasons. That's my submission. I don't know if there's another psychiatrist here. I invited quite a number of them. I don't know if they have a counter opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Zainab. I think you're on point. Cannabis is still illegal in Nigeria. Although I know there are persons that are trying to come through the commercial benefit of it. trying to use the commercial benefit, trying to pull out statistics to show, you know, the foreign exchange it can bring into the country, because we have a fertile soil to actually grow cannabis in Nigeria, and that's a plus for us. You know, so some persons are coming from the agricultural point of view and say, see, fine, we know that this is still illegal, but you guys have to look at the way the world is going right now. This thing can bring a lot of, you know, Forex, you know, this thing and the rest. But honestly, still not been able to break the camel's back in legalizing it. So we're still watching if that angle is going to sell. But for now, as I speak to you, it's not legal. Yeah, even if it is grown in some part, but honestly, it is grown not in a way to legally commercialize it, but people hide to grow it, you know, and smuggle it and all those kind of stuff. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anyam. And I just took a look at your paper. It looks very, very interesting. I'll actually go and dive into it later on. Thank you. I'll turn it back to Dr. Sambo if you're ready. This was just a space filler, so to speak.
I'm so sorry. I'm just trying to. I'm quite disappointed in these things.
Dr. Sambo,
Sir?
Dr. Sambo, have you been able to copy to your phone?
Okay,
yes, that's what I'm trying to do.
See, what I can recommend, since we all have the paper, we have at least fairly read it. He can at least he can just present it without the slide.
No.
I think that's a really good idea.
Since we have a copy of the paper, it's not like it's a presentation we don't have an idea on. So you can just present without the slide.
Okay.
You know, we will try to follow up. Yeah. I can drop the paper in the chat if that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. I think it's okay.
All right. Thank you.
So, Dr. Sambo, you can just go ahead on audio.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ayim. The paper
Go
is
ahead.
there on the chat.
Okay. Good evening. Hello.
Yes, good evening.
Okay. So
Yeah, go ahead. We can hear you, Dr. Sambo.
Okay. So 88 participants were invited for the study and they were screened. However, only 64 were chosen for the satisfied the inclusion criteria for the study. Out of the 64, 2 have withdrawn from the study, one because of the adverse event, and then one of the participants withdrew because of he withdrew the consent to the study. And then out of those 66 participants, they are randomized into 34 placebo group, and then 34 participants that will receive the cannabis-based medicine. So all in all, 64 completed the study. So the efficacy measures the NRS, that is numeric rating scale 11, and then the neuropathic pain scale. These measures showed a significant difference between the baseline measurement and then the scores at the end of the study, which translate to the effectiveness of the cannabis-based medicine compared to the placebo. With the change for the cannabis-based medicine was minus 2.7%, with a 95% confidence interval of 3.4 to 3.4 to -2, and then placebo 1.4 minus 1.4 with confidence interval of -2 to 0.8. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Dr. Sambo. You can go on.
Okay.
We can hear you just fine.
Okay. So the patient global impression of change. Button. Please, I'm sorry, someone knocked at the door. So the global impression, the patient global impression change, which has been measured using the phrase like very much improved in the cannabis-based medicine group. It was shown to be 9 participants showed significant improvement out of the 34 in the treatment group, as which is greater than that of the participant receiving placebo of 4/32. So this it showed that the participant within the control group, they have improvement in the pain compared to those receiving placebo, and at the end of the treatment. And also the participant receiving cannabis-based medicine, they tend to develop some adverse event during the treatment compared to those receiving placebo. And also there are some neuropsychological outcomes which are regarded as secondary outcomes in the study. And these outcomes there is no significant difference in the means in the treatment group together with vis-a-vis the placebo group. Those items that are looked often within the neuropsychological outcomes are the spatial recall test, symbol digit modality test, first auditory serial test, word generation list. These are not much affected by the cannabis-based medicine within the treatment group. And then, so part of the So in the study, the number needed to treat within the cannabis-based, within the participant receiving cannabis-based medicine was 3.7. At least roughly 4 individuals need to be treated for one to get benefit. And also the number needed to harm among the cannabis-based medicine was found to be about 5. And this study uses patient PGIC, okay, this study uses patient global impression of change instead of quality of life assessment measure. Because if quality of life assessment measure is used, it will translate, it will be more beneficial to the patient because it will incorporate a lot of parameters, including change in the mood of the patient, as compared to only change in the pain, as regard with the patient global impression of change. So this is one of the drawback in the study. And also the number of participants used in the study are not large. So as such, this is also a limitation on the part of the study. And also there is a lot of exclusion criteria. So this will have effect on the external validity of the study. So in conclusion, cannabis-based medicine is one of the promising treatment modality in the pain in the treatment of pain-related conditions like multiple sclerosis. So much research needs to be done in order to understand the benefits of cannabis-made medicine and also the potential risk that may be associated with treatment. Thank you very much for listening to this presentation. I believe I need more contributions so as to learn more regarding appraising a study like randomized controlled trials. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sambo, for the presentation. So the floor is now open for questions, contributions. You can just raise your hand and I'll allow you to speak. Yes, any questions, contributions?
Yeah, just want to thank Dr. Zainab Kaltungo again for the opportunity. I have a hard stop now. I have another call in 2 minutes, and I want to thank Dr. Sambo as well for that very nice presentation. It's good to be here with you all, and I look forward to future discussions. Thank you again.
Thank you so much for being around. Thank you for the contributions too.
And we're taking you up on that offer. We'll be calling you back. Thank you.
No problem.
Yes, Dr. Akintayo, you're about to say something? Okay, I think you're still muted. Any contributions, questions?
Thank you for the presentation. Well, in the study, I have a problem that said the drug was given orally. A spray was used. I was thinking of direct absorption of the drug from the mouth into the system, not only what the patient swallow. Because we know that when a drug is sprayed into the mouth, some of the drug also have direct absorption through the vessels of the mouth, not only the one that the patient swallow. And how the study calculates, how the calculation for the patient load to be used. I mean the number of patients. I didn't really understand. I have a little challenge there because at least they have access to the data of the patient with multiple sclerosis that they are trying to use it for. And I thought that would have been used to tell us so that we know that the result can be reliable, it will be significant. Thank you.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, Dr. Sambo, you can go ahead.
Okay, the participant, all the participants, the placebo group and the active ingredient group, they all have multiple sclerosis. However, some of them might have been on cannabis-based medicine, like dorabinol and nabilon. However, all these medications, when a patient with the multiple sclerosis is on these said medications, also maybe on amitriptyline or other tricyclic antidepressant or other pain relieving medications, is part of an exclusion criteria, while some on these medications, they need to reduce the amount to certain permitted by the study guideline. Initially, before the start of the study, the participants were screened, and then the type of pain that is needed for the study is the central pain, which although there is no standard instrument that is used to screen for those with the central pain, however, different clinical assessment of the pain using body maps was utilized to segregate those with the central pain. So when patients with the multiple sclerosis have been confirmed to have the central pain, they are randomized into the treatment group and then the placebo group. So before they were given the cannabis-based medicine in form of aerosol, where they will spray it onto the oral mucosa. So the dose to be given is based on the tolerance of the patient or the participant, because you will start, a participant will start with one spray, and then the visual analog scale will be used to check for presence of toxicity, whether dizziness, whether because one of the patient developed suicidal ideation during the study, and it had to be she was drawn from the study. So using the visual analog scale from 0 to 100, if participant has a visual analog score of more than 25%, that dose will be omitted because of the potential for developing of having adverse event. So the guideline for knowing the dose to be used is based on this visual analog scale, and it will be titrated on daily basis up to the maximum spray of 48 sprays during the study. So different participants use different amount of the cannabis-based medicine during the study. There is no fixed amount of dosage for the medication to be used. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Sambo. Any other contributions, questions?
Sure. Thanks, sir. I think mine is the drugs themselves. Yes, different dosages were used for different patients, but the different brands, do they confer different level of efficacies such that a patient using a particular brand, is it that one brand may be better than another brand, and that may have influenced the response or otherwise? Because I mean, it gave an example of like about 3 brands in the paper, and we don't know if the patients use a particular one, a particular brand was selected for each one of them, or all of them used any of the three, which could have influenced the outcome. And then the heterogeneity of what the central pain is. Could it be that some patients that suffer from certain components of the central pain are also likely to respond faster than some other patients that suffer from the certain components of the central pain? I think these are part of the gray areas that I'm not very clear about, but by and large, I think it was a good paper.
Yes, if I may answer. Some of the, depending on the category of the type of pain that qualifies as central pain, different groups have different response to the cannabis-based medicine. I can't remember the percentage, but there are spastic types and there are the static types, and then the other one, I can't remember the name. They have different response to the cannabis-based medicine, the response rate to the reduction of the pain. And also, I believe, even though the study was sponsored by one of the drug company, but based on what I went through in the article, it's a generic name they used. So it's unlikely to be a branded cannabis-based medicine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more contributions, comments? Okay. So in the absence of any more contributions or comments, I'll hand over to Dr. Kaltungo if she has any final words before we close the session. Dr. Kaltungo.
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. I don't know if the statistician has made his comment. I had to step out briefly.
Not really, but with time, are they willing to wait for a few minutes, or we can
Or
yeah,
we can schedule another day for you like we usually do. You know how we love statistics.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay with me.
Good. So thank you very much, everybody. We will let you know when it has been scheduled, and I'm sure it will be a very full session because the other journal club members and the rest of the hub I know will be joining. So thank you very much, Dr. Maina. Thank you very much, our participants. Thank you very much, Mr. Emeka. And thank you to our reviewer and the author in absentia. Thank you. Thank you. So see you next month. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Yes, bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.